Let's talk about our desire to lose unwanted belly fat as menopausal women. It's probably the one thing that is just aggravating most women, and they're feeling like it's the most frustrating thing to get rid of. And there's a lot of hype and I believe misinformation surrounding what actually helps you lose belly fat. So we're going to talk about all that today. I'm going to share some of my personal experiences and some of the things that I'm doing as well. But before we get there, I want to take a second to introduce myself. My name is Diane Parham. I am the creator of the online course and community, the Intermittent Fasting for Today's Aging Woman, where we take a mindset approach and use a lot of common sense techniques and lifestyle approaches to help us look and feel our best and live our most authentic life as we go through this aging process. I do have a course starting on June the 1st. It is available to both graduates and new students. And for graduates, it's just a reinforcement of the things that you've already learned. So it's just fresh and exciting in your mind. And for new students, I do break down a little bit of science behind intermittent fasting and why it can be such an amazing tool for us women in menopause. And then we just do practical approaches to figuring out food, social and emotional aspects to living an intermittent fasting lifestyle. And then I'm adding a new week of content where I'll be sharing fasting and working out, as well as why some longer fasts might be appropriate for you in certain seasons of your life, and why maybe sticking to some shorter fasting schedules might be exactly what you need. So if you're interested in that, you can click the link here, or you can look down in the description box below. You'll be added to my email list, and I'll be emailing you this week until we close registration on the 1st. Okay, abdominal or belly fat. It is the visceral fat that our body just holds on to because we are transitioning through hormonal changes. It's the same kind of belly fat we had if you are a woman who experienced pregnancy and the hormonal changes that go with that. And that belly fat seemed to be the hardest thing for us to lose at that time as well. Part of that was just the expansion of our belly in general, but our body does a pretty good job at fixing that. But we have that fat in our abdominal area until our hormones go back to normal. We exit the postpartum phase, we stop breastfeeding, whatever, and you probably remember that you just kind of went back to where you were. The difference between that and what we're in now, a season of menopause, is we're not really going back, right? Like we are in the season for the rest of our lives. And there are parts of that that we are just not happy with or comfortable with, and that's okay. What I really want to make sure you leave today's video with is the fact that you are totally normal. And I think sometimes the expectations that we have in the comparison game that we have is just something that is really cruel that we do to ourselves. So I have never really had a problem with my abdominal section. I've always had pretty flat abs. I've had seasons where they've been toned. I've had seasons where they're not toned. All just depends on what my workout and nutrition lifestyle is. But as I've transitioned through menopause and the deeper into menopause that I'm 59 now, I noticed that there is just this looseness to my abdomen, which would probably be considered fat. But I think it's just a combination of collagen loss and muscle loss and all the things that do come as we age. And the expectation that we have to have these perfect bodies all the time, I think is another aspect of aging that I think is just really unfair. But I want to give you some tips that will definitely help improve that area and hopefully just help make you feel a little bit more comfortable in your skin. So there is some truth to the fact that zone 2 training, or that lower intensity, longer duration training, is beneficial to tap into fat utilization. So in order to get rid of fat, we need to use fat. It's simply just an energy system. And the more we store, the more we have, the more we utilize, the more we can get rid of. And so I have been very, very diligent myself about doing zone 2 training, which was humbling at first because if you're a runner like I am, you do have to run slow. If you're a walker, you might have to actually pick up your intensity a little bit just to get you in that nice zone of fat utilization. And then you have to be consistent with it. This is not a quick fix type of thing. Like I said, we're in menopause forever. And so these things that we're dealing with are a forever thing. And so if you're really adamant about reducing some of that visceral fat, some of that abdominal area fat, you have to be consistent with what it takes to utilize that as an energy source. And so that zone two training is going to be very, very important for you as a woman, and you have to be consistent with it. Of course, we want to do strength training as well. And of course, when we have more muscle mass on our body, we utilize fat more efficiently, we utilize calorie utilization better. We know all of those things, but we do have to remember that that is in general just a harder thing to accomplish because we are older. So a lot of the old tricks of the trade when we were, in our 30s or maybe even our 40s are just not going to work the same way. So I believe in my experience with coaching women, in my own personal experience, like I said, I'm 59 years old, that I do have to have a combination of both strength training and cardiovascular training. And the zone two has really, really been beneficial with utilizing that fat because that's what zone training is by definition when you stay in those lower zones for a longer period of time. There are ways that you can test this to see if you are doing it efficiently. There are blood glucose and ketone meters, so you can see if you're actually producing ketones at a certain point post exercise. And then there's a device called a Lumen. Links can be found down below if you're interested in checking these out. And it will give you the byproduct of what your energy system is post workout to see if you actually tapped into fat utilization. So we don't have to guess anymore. There are actually tools that we can use to test that. The other thing that we have to be very, very honest with ourselves about is our nutrition. Usually the thing that's holding women in that frustrating abdominal visceral fat type of situation is the fact that we're not being honest with our nutrition. I have to come to grips with this at times for myself. Also, I'm a chips and salsa girly, and that was just my thing. I called it part of my identity. And so when I went out to Mexican restaurants or we had dinner at the house with family and we gathered around the island and there was an open bag of chips and a tub of guacamole, I ate. Like I didn't count calories, I didn't count chips, I just ate freely, right? And I had to ask myself, could that be the one thing that's holding me back? And I re-evaluated my relationship with tortilla chips. Most importantly, from I think it was like a reel or something I saw on Instagram where it stated that four tortilla chips are a tortilla. And if you've ever been in a Mexican restaurant or you enjoy chips and salsa like I do, how many tortillas are you eating in a sitting? And when I have taco night at home, I always put my taco ingredients in a romaine lettuce leaf boat and you just fill it up with your taco ingredients because I didn't want to eat a tortilla. Like I just didn't want those extra carbohydrates. But when it came to chips, I was in denial. Like I would eat endless amounts of them. And so I just reevaluated my relationship with chips and salsa, and it has made a huge difference because now I don't have that stored energy from endless amounts of carbohydrates that I'm consuming on a Friday or Saturday or Friday and Saturday, right? Because we tend to do those things on the weekend, and then having a harder time into tapping into that fat utilization or the fat energy because your body will use the carb or the sugar energy first. So that has made a huge difference for me as well. And that's just being honest with your nutrition. Now, I'm not like forbidding tortilla chips from being in my life, but I just now engage with them in a different way because I know they were the problem for me. So if you're a woman who is feeling really frustrated and you're feeling like you're doing all the right things, I want you to see if you can catch yourself negotiating with certain nutritional items or food items in your life. For a lot of women, that's chocolate or the sweet thing after dinner or still putting things in your coffee when you're supposed to be in a fasted state. Very innocent little things that in the big picture of things aren't harmful to us in any way, but they can be the thing that is making us frustrated because we're not reaching the results that we say we really want. And I am not going to let tortilla chips on a Friday and or Saturday night be the thing that keeps me from looking and feeling my best in my own skin. So food for thought on that one. And then the last thing I want to talk with you about is why wouldn't you just give it a try? We tend to be so fixated on the quote unquote experts. Yes, I consider myself an expert also. So You can take what you need from here and discard anything that doesn't apply to you. But we get so fixated on the matter of fact and absolutes that people are telling us that we need to do, especially as menopausal women, because it is a marketing target for so many people that we don't think for ourselves. So I want you to ask yourself how things are working for you and does that make sense for you? I just listened to a podcast this weekend about why women should vary up their fasts. And I have been arguing this concept for a decade because I have been teaching this and practicing this for a decade. I want you to think about your everyday life. When has your everyday life and routine been exactly, and I mean exactly the same 2 days in a row? Like you ate the same food, you slept the same way, you exercised the same way, you moved about your day the same way. It has to be exactly the same way for a fast that you put on rinse and repeat because it works for you to be less effective for you. I want you to think about that. I have been teaching a 20-hour fast with a 4-hour feast for a decade. It is my go-to. I'm going to be fasting for 20 hours every day for the month of June just to revisit what it is that I love so much. And I'm excited about it. Like it's super simple to do. You don't have to think about anything. You don't have to schedule anything. You don't have to worry about anything. You start your fast at a certain time, you end your fast at a certain time, and you go about your life. The fear of having things be the same is really a false fear, especially if you haven't practiced and or experienced this yourself. And I want you to think about your days. Which 2 days have you lived that have been exactly the same for your body's chemistry, your hormones, and your system? It's impossible to have two exact same days in that regard. And that's what fasting does, right? It affects our body's hormones, it affects our body's chemistry, it affects everything that's going on with our body. There is nothing wrong with you practicing the same fasting window every single day. It's not going to plateau you. It's not going to stall you out. It's not going to make you store body fat. It's going to make your life simple. It's going to take the guesswork out of things. And then you just become a very flexible person on the other things that you do in your life. And then, like I always reinforce here in this community, is never skip a memory making moment for a fast. If you build your fasting lifestyle around the life you love, you'll never have to walk away from fasting. If you are taking the advice of a lot of people on the internet and your goal is to perfect a fast or perfect a fasting schedule, or you have to vary up your fast when the moon is full, or if it's a Tuesday, or for whatever reason, just because, and that is not working for you, you have to know that is not working for you. And you have the right as a grown woman to make decisions that work for you. So think about what's working for you, think about what's not working for you, and then lean more into the what's working for you, regardless of what anybody else is telling you, because there's always going to be someone who has advice. I'm giving advice today. I'm telling you what works for me. It might not work for you. There's always going to be a new scientific study that's out. It may not apply to you. It might be something that's worth testing out. There's going to be new information about nutrition. There's going to be new information about supplements. There's going to be new information about fitness, because that's what keeps the world moving, right? That's what keeps people in business, and that's what keeps us interested in coming back for more, so to speak. But you know you best. Make sure you are being honest with yourself. What you find is working for you is working for you. You don't have to question that any further. Rinse and repeat that, and then stay away from being perfect. I want you to lean into what is good enough to allow you to look and feel your best and live your most authentic life. Girlfriend, that's what you need to do on rinse and repeat. Like I said, we have a course starting in June. I would love for you to come in with us. I am very flexible in what I teach. I will ask you to think more in the next 30 days, and probably you've thought in years about taking care of yourself and the implications of choices that you're making, and why it is we are still doing things that we know don't serve us when we also know what does serve us. And so it'll be a great month. You're going to grow a lot. You're going to realize a lot. And hopefully you're going to lean in the direction of improving some of the things that you're currently not happy with. So information is down below in the description box. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And then thanks for stopping by. I love having this opportunity to have a conversation with you.